Make sure you get your dinner.
Yes.
If we may resume, Ms. Edwin-Tong.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh.
Yes.
Before the break, Mr. Singh, we were focused on the questions that Ms. Loh had raised with you. And I showed you a couple of WhatsApp messages that she had sent with you,
Yes.
to you, right?
Yes.
Now, just to put it in context again for, I guess, yours and also my benefit, we were talking about why there was no information given to members of the Workers' Party who were asked to come forward and give their submissions to the Workers' Party. And my contention to you, which you disagreed, was that it would be relevant for the Workers' Party members to know that Ms. Khan had come clean to the senior leaders of the Workers' Party, made a clean breast of things, at least by the 8th of August.
Forced to come clean.
Yes,
Yes.
but had come clean anyway, and members should also be told that the Workers' Party senior leadership had then worked with Ms. Khan with some clear objectives in mind and circumstances in which, if fulfilled, such as her family being informed, would result in clarification being made to Parliament.
Yes.
Remember? Okay. The point I was making to you is that it's relevant for members to know because they would have to judge the severity and culpability of a conduct, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Because it makes a difference whether they come and tell the DP, I think she should be expelled, or whether she should be given a censure or not. The gravamen of her conduct would be in focus, correct?
I disagree to that in the way you've put it.
The level of culpability would be in focus.
No, I don't think it would make a difference.
The extent to which it's felt that she either cooperated or did not cooperate with the party would also be relevant, right?
Not exactly. I don't agree with that.
Well, put it this way, Mr. Singh. If you had someone who was on a frolic of his or her own, acted entirely on his or her own without informing the senior leadership,
Right.
never, whether forced to or otherwise, never discussed, never came clean, hid material facts from the senior leadership throughout. That is a very different scenario from one who
Right.
gave the senior leadership an early account 3 months prior. All the facts were known and worked with the senior leadership to achieve clarification in Parliament. Correct? Those two scenarios are different.
Those two scenarios are different in
Yes.
the way you have put them, yes.
Right. So if the scenarios are different, then the factual matrix behind the second scenario, i.e., whether there was such conduct, whether this person had come clean, whether they were working with senior leadership to fix the problem, all of that should be disclosed to the membership, right?
To the extent that the second scenario is concerned, my answer is no, I did not find it to be relevant because ultimately this was about Ms. Khan and her decision to lie in Parliament, to continue the lie. Whether the party leadership, it would be very relevant if the party leadership told her to tell a lie. We did not. To continue a narrative, we did not. And it is the same position I put to the committee before our break, that I did not see it to be relevant. This was specifically on Ms. Khan lying in Parliament. And we have an MP who has lied. What's the party's view on that?
An MP who has lied, whether that lie was held firmly and not discussed with senior leadership, would be a different scenario from an MP who has lied, but confessed early, 3 months prior, almost 3 months prior to coming clean in Parliament, right?
But if she had confessed early, she would have told the truth on the 4th of October.
Yes, and so therefore you're precisely right. And therefore the circumstances behind why she didn't tell the truth in October would be relevant, correct?
The circumstances behind why she didn't tell the truth before October.
Yes.
Well, those
Well,
circumstances.
no, October.
October.
We're talking
Those
about
circumstances pertain specifically, as far as the DP were concerned, to the lies that Ms. Khan had told in Parliament. We did not see the fact that she had been forced to tell the truth as relevant for the purposes of
No, Mr.
what the
Singh.
DP wanted to do.
No, Mr. Singh, I think you understand me, and I think I'll try again. It is not about whether the DP influenced it or didn't influence it, forced her to tell a lie or otherwise. That's a separate point. For the purposes of my contention to you, it doesn't matter whether the DP did or didn't do that. My contention rests on the premise of full, frank, honest, open, transparent disclosure to members, because the members were required to make a submission to the DP as to what would be the appropriate sanction for Ms. Khan, right? Correct?
In my view, that was not relevant.
No, that's what the
But you're saying
members were asked
full,
to do.
frank disclosure insofar as the information that Ms. Khan had shared with us on the 8th of August, after I had forced her to make that information apparent, I did not see that as relevant to an understanding of Ms. Khan's
Okay.
conduct to lie repeatedly, lie
Put it-
again in Parliament.
Put it this way. The admission on the 1st of November that Ms. Khan did, that would be a factor that you take in her favor as a mitigating circumstance,
Yes, it would
right?
be. It would
because
be.
she would have disclosed
would
it
be.
publicly in Parliament.
Yes.
Why wouldn't the fact that she had disclosed it to her senior leadership
Mm-hmm.
also be a mitigating factor?
Because in my view, that point rests on her telling the senior leadership after she's been forced to tell the senior leadership what has happened. What is mitigating to me is her conduct after the 12th, when it's made clear to her when she wants to retain the lie, to say, no, you have to tell the truth.
No, I'm not focused.
And that, in any way, she makes that public on the 1st of November.
So, you don't think that members should have information concerning whether she worked with or cooperated with members of the senior leadership of Workers' Party?
I think for the purposes of the
No, answer my
disciplinary
question.
panel, no.
No.
I already answered it a few times in different ways.
No,
I didn't think it
you
was
have not.
relevant.
And surely to you, Mr. Singh, as I said, you are a proponent of open, honest disclosure.
That's a
What's
separate
wrong
issue.
with disclosing? It's not a separate issue, Mr. Singh.
It wasn't.
It goes to the heart of.
It wasn't relevant to me.
It goes to the heart of the integrity of the entire disciplinary process.
No, it does not.
That you fail to be open and transparent in the way that Ms. Loh has put it to you, failed to disclose to your members that the senior leadership of the Workers' Party was well aware of the lie and was prepared for Ms. Loh to take time to come clean in Parliament.
I disagree.
You
I
see-
also have already made it clear that I
You-
don't
you
know
see-
what Ms. Loh was referring to when she said the senior leadership knew. Is she referring to knew by reliance on
I
what
will take you
Raisa
back
has
to
said?
it in a moment. But you see, you left the public and the Workers' Party members with the impression that Ms. Khan sat on the lie and told no one for 3 months. Would you agree?
No, I don't think that would have been the impression.
No.
Because this is specifically about Ms.
Mr. Singh,
Khan.
no, Mr. Singh, look at your press release 1st November.
Yes.
Look at your press release 2nd November.
Press release on the 1st of You're talking about the Facebook statement.
Facebook statement and your
Yes.
press release announcing
Mm-hmm.
the formation of the DP. Where does it disclose that senior leadership knew?
No, on what I'm referring to is on the
Answer
1st
me.
of November.
Does it?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So
You know that.
You have not disclosed the fact that senior leadership knew to your
It's not,
members.
in my mind, it was not relevant.
It's relevant because
That's your contention.
No, I'm putting it to you.
I'm not accepting
Don't interrupt
it.
me. Don't interrupt me. I'm putting it to you that the members of the Workers' Party who are now asked to judge the level of culpability of Ms. Khan,
Yes.
surely it's relevant for them to know that in fact she had not been sitting on the lie by herself for 3 months. That in fact, 4 days after the lie, she told it to you. That's relevant for
She
them.
told what to me?
She told you that she had told a lie in Parliament.
Yes, after being pressed. And as far as I was concerned, if indeed I follow your reasoning, then she would have told the truth on the 4th of October. So as far as the members are concerned, this is an MP who has lied and continues to carry the lie on the 4th of October. We're judging her on that behavior.
Mr. Singh, I think you know the point and you are deliberately being obtuse about it.
I am
I'll
not
put
being
it to you.
obtuse about it.
You
I'm
actually-
making my point. I'm giving my evidence. This is
But
my
you-
evidence to you.
You are actually someone who has made so many speeches on openness and transparency, but on this point, when it comes to your own openness and transparency, you take the position that it should be suppressed.
There's
I'm
no
su-
question of it being suppressed. It's a question of
Well, it's not there.
relevance.
It's
And
not
I
there.
said it's not relevant.
Well, you took it out of it's not in the press statement, so it's suppressed.
I didn't take it out. It wasn't even in.
That's even worse.
Yeah, that's because you're making that
And-
allegation at me.
And the reason you did so is because you wanted to protect your own position that in fact you and the senior leadership of Workers' Party were already aware for 3 months prior to the disclosure in Parliament of the fact that Ms. Khan had told a lie in Parliament.
No.
And that's the reason why in this fact neither appears in your first nor your second November press releases, neither does it appear in any of the materials that you circulated to the Workers' Party members, and that's why you resisted and ignored Ms. Lowe's plea to you for the DP to be open and transparent. Do you
Disagree.
agree? And that's the only reason why you would omit that fact.
Disagree. I've made it clear I did not feel it was relevant because of Ms. Khan's own conduct.
Can you pick up Mr. Faisal Manap's submission to the tribunal, please?
Yes.
We saw it a bit earlier. Yes, thank you. Can you please go to page 20?
I beg your pardon, page?
Page 20. Actually, the document starts a bit earlier, so perhaps you start at page 18.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
It's titled DP Recommendations to CEC.
Yes.
So it sets up, I'm sure you've seen this document
Yes, I
before,
have.
right?
Yes,
so
I
you'll
have.
be familiar. So
Yes, I have.
you have a extract of your party constitution.
Yes.
You have a chronology of milestones for the DP.
Yes.
And then right at the bottom, you see total sign up, invited 27, total turn up 24, emails received 10.
Yes.
For info, over the page, total 34. Opinions, leave WP 26. Differences, re-mode of departure. Stay as MP 3. Non-committal 5. So this is the poll you took from members, right?
This was of whatever we had received, all the
Yes.
information we received from members.
So your
yes.
members are giving an opinion
Yes.
to you as a DP
Yes.
as to whether she should stay as an MP or
Yes.
otherwise, right?
Yes.
Yes. And this is the DP's assessment. Go
Yes.
down the page.
Yes.
I think you'll be familiar. Knowingly asserted an untruth or fact in Parliament on 3 occasions. And if you just scroll down, you will see the range of punishments, what the CEC can decide based on
Yes.
Article 20. And you look at mitigating circumstances. No malice or sinister motive. Made public admission on 1st November to correct the record. She likely believed a survivor's account. So
Yes.
these are the DP's characterizations of mitigating circumstances.
That's right.
I'm suggesting to you that a relevant mitigating circumstance would also include the fact that she told you and Ms. Lim and Mr. Faisal the truth in August.
No, I would not consider that to be a mitigating factor.
And
By
that would
virtue
be,
of her own conduct.
I'm sorry?
By virtue of her own conduct later, she continues to tell the lie.
Let me have a try at a different approach. If it is determined that the instruction that you gave to Ms. Khan on the 3rd of October was equivocal at best and unclear at worst, okay? I don't want to get into difficulties with you over definition. And as a result, Ms. Khan was misled into thinking that she should not tell the truth. Let's say, would that not be a relevant fact here?
If she was misled into not telling the truth, I think let's deal with what the facts are and what
I'm-
the evidence.
no, I'm
This is a
asking you,
hypothesis to me.
Mr. Singh, I'm entitled to put an hypothesis to you because we
Okay.
should test the evidence. So
Right.
I'm giving you a,
You don't test the evidence with a hypothesis, but go ahead.
oh, we do. I think we do. You understand my question, right?
I understand your question.
Yes, and you understand the hypothesis.
I understand the hypothesis.
Okay, so on that basis, don't you think that it'll be relevant,
Right,
which goes towards her state of mind and therefore her level of culpability?
right. I disagree because what was told to her was to take responsibility and ownership.
Okay, but if let's say there is a finding, not necessarily by us, but let's say there's a finding that the instruction on the 3rd of October was, as I said, less than clear, equivocal, or perhaps even tending to lead her to believe that she should continue with the lie. If that is the case, then that would be relevant to the considerations of the DP, correct?
So you're conceding that if indeed that was what had happened,
Mr. Singh, I'm conceding nothing. I'm framing a proposition to you and
Right.
asking you for your evidence on this.
well, if it's not based on the truth, then I have to agree. But
You
the truth of the matter is she was told to take responsibility and
Okay.
ownership. But if you're suggesting
Okay.
that
Okay.
her conclusion is
That's fine.
no,
That's fine. who determines the truth of that? If let's say that's an allegation that's made, who determines the truth of that?
You have to, this is my evidence.
No,
There's a committee here to determine
no.
that. I'm giving the committee my evidence.
Mr. Singh, the hypothesis, and maybe we go back and read the evidence, it's easier. You said, I put it to you at the hypothesis, and you said, well, it's not based on the truth, then I have to agree. But the truth of the matter is that she was told to take responsibility, all right? So you are saying that if it is not true, then you agree. It's a relevant consideration for the DP, right?
I mean, you can, but that also goes to my earlier evidence that if we had told her to stick to the lie, it follows that same
Yes.
train of thought.
So who determines this truth,
Which truth?
the truth that you refer to? In other words,
Mr. Tong,
no, I haven't asked a question. So please don't interrupt. You said, well, if it's not based on the truth, then I have to agree. Those are your words. The truth of the statement, truth or falsity of the statement, is a question of whether she was misled or not misled on the 3rd of October, right?
yes.
Okay. Who determines that?
You tell me. I've told you, I've given you my evidence.
In your case,
Right?
the DP has decided that there's no truth in that. And that's why you follow.
I follow you. I follow you.
And that's why the three of you on the
Right.
DP is completely self-serving.
No, it's not completely self-serving
You are
at all.
determining, in proceeding to listen and hear this case
Yes.
and sit on the DP,
Yes,
you have made a decision or a judgment
right.
that her version
Right.
of what happened is false, is wrong. And your version is the right one. That's
because we
let me
don't-
finish.
Yes, go ahead.
That is the premise on which you answered my question.
Mr. Tong,
That's the
it
premise.
was a hypothesis you put to me. I had no trouble answering it because I am aware of what the truth is and I acted in good faith.
Exactly.
I put the
Exactly.
DP together, got CEC's permission to do so, and that's because we know what we have to do. We have to look at Ms. Khan's conduct, what she had done, and thereafter determine what was the right thing to
This
do and to move
entire
forward as a party.
DP and the fact that you continue in the DP includes the DP deciding that its own version, i.e. the three of you, own version of what happened on the 3rd of October is the correct one.
No, Mr. Tong, it's open to the CEC to ask any question to the DP to say, look, when did you know? And these questions, let me remind you, were already out in the public, free for the CEC to put those questions to us. Now, if we
Mr.
really were hiding
Mr.
it,
Singh.
let me finish because I let you finish. At least give me that courtesy. It was for the CEC, of course, at any point in time to ask us, when did you know? We had a CEC meeting on the 29th of October. Ms. Khan doesn't say anything about a lie that needs to be taken to the grave. Later on, we have another CEC meeting. There are more questions already out there in public. The CEC can ask all these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I think your own last few seconds of evidence answers my question. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. And that's why it's relevant in this respect. At the time you made the CEC, or you asked the CEC to set up the DP,
Yes.
give them these three names as the persons on
Yes,
the
I did.
DP,
Yes.
the CEC were not aware that the three of you knew of the falsehood in August,
I
correct?
think I've admitted that in earlier evidence.
Yes or no?
Yes.
They were completely unaware, right?
Of course, I had already said that earlier.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
I had said that very early, in fact.
So the CEC was unaware that the three of you knew of the falsehood in August when it appointed the three of you as DP members.
That is
right?
correct. That,
Right.
that would be correct.
And-
Just give me a second. There could have been some members who had known earlier by virtue of them by virtue of Raisa checking some information with them about what goes into her statement. So she may have shared some information with them.
Do you know this for a fact?
I would
Are you able to
believe
establish it now?
I would believe it to be true, and that this is my evidence.
Well, tell me which CEC members.
I will have
And
to.
we'll check with them.
I'll have to check,
No.
and I'll have to come back.
No,
to
no, you made an assertion. Please tell us, to the best of your knowledge now, who knew?
I'm quite sure that because I saw it in the evidence that Raisa spoke to Ru at least, at the very least.
Mr. Singh,
And
I
Ru
think,
being a CEC member, she would have known before the DP was set up.
Mr. Singh, Raisa spoke to Ru because you told her to go and check if she still has the support of her Sengkang GRC teammates.
Right,
Right.
right.
That reference is the reference you were referring to. I showed it to you earlier.
No. What you're asking me is, does Ru know that the CEC is
No,
aware?
you are making an assertion that some members of the CEC might be aware
Yes.
that the three of you
Right.
already knew of the falsehood in August, and I'm asking you who.
I believe it could be, Ru could know based on what I saw very quickly on the documentation, but I have to check. I'm prepared to check with her.
Is it only Ru?
I'm not sure.
Is it
But-
only based on the document that you saw earlier?
Yes, one of those exchanges.
Do you have any other basis to say that Ru was aware?
No, because the whole point was this was something personal that had happened to Ms. Khan and only the three of us knew.
Okay.
But I'll have to check that point up. Let me check it
Okay,
up
you
and
can
I'll come
check.
back to you.
But for the moment, we take it that Ru is the only one that you're aware of, and the only basis on which you say she's aware is that document we saw earlier on the WhatsApp message where Raisha was to speak to Ru.
I'm basing it on that, yes.
Okay. And only that, right?
Yes.
And as far as you know, no other CEC member is
No,
aware.
no.
Right. So the vast majority of the CEC members were not aware of the three members of the DP's knowledge of the falsehood in August when it appointed the DP on the 2nd of November.
I
Correct?
think that would be fair.
Right, thank you. Now, Ms. Low was one of those who came to see you and made her submissions to the DP, right?
Yes.
Do you remember that meeting?
I do. I have taken some notes of that meeting.
Okay. Can you share those notes with
Yes,
us
I
when
can.
you can?
Yes, I can.
It don't have to be now. But I'll-
I don't have them now, but I will just take a note. Actually, hold on a second. I did tell all the CEC members who came to give us evidence that I will not share their information in public. Can I request a chair to confirm this with Ms. Loh Pei and Yudish? If they are prepared, if they allow me to share this information, I will share this information, the notes that the DP took. Thank you. If they agree, I'm happy to release those notes.
Well, they came to this committee and gave evidence on what they shared with you at the DP.
Sure.
So let me take you to it.
Yes,
Can you
but
please pick up?
I gave them the DP's word that we will not share what they say
Okay,
in public.
I understand.
And
so we can
asked
check
for the
with-
same, but never mind.
Okay, we can check with them.
Yeah.
Now, can you please pick up 2nd of December transcripts?
Whose transcript, sorry? Sorry. Yes.
Right. Please turn to page 52.
Yes.
So the evidence that we heard from both Ms. Loh and Mr. Nathan was that both of them went to see the DP jointly.
Yes,
Was
they
that your recollection as well?
Yes, yeah, that was.
They spoke in with one voice, as far as you can
Yes,
recall?
yes, you can say that.
And so they made the same points to you, right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, look, it's a long page of evidence here, but you can start with Ms. Loh at near the top where she says we came prepared with quite a number of points.
Yes.
Do you see that?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Right at the top.
So just briefly read that to yourself. First point.
Yes, I see that.
Okay. And then I asked her, what were your reasons? And she says, one of the reasons I gave was that everybody makes mistakes. Right? That's the first paragraph. Another reason I gave, and she said, this is my personal opinion, it's not responsible to leave a seat in Parliament unoccupied.
That's right.
Now, look at the next paragraph. She says, I also told them that the CEC, and especially the DP, should tell the public the true timeline of events which I've shared here today, that when they knew what courses of action they took, I told them you should make this public knowledge, barring confidential and personal information.
Yes.
Now, you were there. You would have understood Ms. Loh to mean that she wanted the DP to share the true timeline of events, meaning she wanted you to disclose to the public when each of the three members of the DP became aware of the falsehoods.
Right. She
correct?
saw that to be relevant.
Yes. In fact, that's the same point I'm putting to you today.
I know.
correct?
And I've answered why I don't think it's relevant.
And she goes further to say that should include when they knew what courses of action they took, and you should make this public knowledge.
That's right.
Right. So earlier you said you're not clear what Ms. Loh meant in her WhatsApp messages. I think by this time you were quite clear, right?
No. I didn't say she was not clear in her WhatsApp messages.
you-
Her
you
first,
meant-
on November 10th, she actually makes this representation to me for the first time.
Yes.
She doesn't make, this is not the first time she's making this representation to me.
Okay. So
yeah.
by 25th of November, at
Yes.
this meeting, you were quite clear what the thrust of her submission was.
No, I was not.
It says
But-
here.
This is the evidence, not evidence, this is what she has shared with the DP, but by the 10th of November, she had already told me
Yes.
that, she is of the view that, what the DP knows and all that should also come out. But little did I know until she gave her evidence that she was told by Ms. Raisa Khan that a lie had to be taken to the grave. I'm not sure whether she's referring to that,
No,
those
mi-
details, but as far as I'm concerned,
No, Mr. Singh, you see, you are very keen to bring us back to that.
no, I'm not, because
That
that's
message,
her
you brought it
I
up.
don't know what her knowledge is,
You-
see. I don't know what her knowledge is.
You brought it up
If-
on your own volition several times, more than I thought you might.
No, but I mean, I'm
So-
surprised you feel that way, because that's a very critical part of
It
the
is
evidence
criti-
that
it
has
is
gone
critical.
into
It is
the
critical.
COP.
It is critical, but you see, I am asking you about a different piece of evidence
Sure.
and a different time
Sure.
span now.
Yes?
And I think you would know very clearly what Ms. Loh here means.
Yes,
She is saying to tell the public the true timeline of events,
right.
that when they knew,
Right.
they refers to the DP, right?
No, that's
Yes.
not incontrovertible.
And knew refers to your knowledge of the falsehood in August, right?
Right.
What courses of action they took, and they refers to the DP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So it's got nothing to do with the message that says "take it to the grave."
Let's
Okay.
take it. No.
Answer my question.
I disagree, because I don't know what Ms. Loh's intention is when she says what we knew. So I'm sure you get my point, what I'm trying to say.
No, Mr. Singh,
with regard
see-
to Ms. Loh's knowledge. But I think a more important fact I'd like to share.
No, don't see shadows when there are.
I'm not seeing any shadows.
She's simply saying to you, Mr. DP, when she was there, Mr. Members of the DP, you should tell people when they knew, when you knew the facts.
You knew what? What facts? Tell me, Mr. Tong, what facts is she referring to?
Mr. Singh, you're backpedaling.
I'm not backpedaling. I'm asking you, what facts is she referring to?
I'll answer you with reference to your own evidence.
Sure. But I think you need
Page
Ms. Loh's
407.
evidence.
Page
Sorry?
407.
407.
I'm reading to you so that the transcript can pick it up of my transcripts. I put to you, she is saying, with reference to this line, she is saying to tell the public the true timeline of events when they knew. They refers to the DP, right? No, that's uncontrovertible. Your answer.
Yes,
And they refers to you, right? Answer by you, yes.
yes.
And they refers to the DP, right? So it's got nothing to do with the message, take it to the grave.
What about facts?
So you see, Mr.
No, my question to you earlier was, what facts is Ms. Loh referring to? That clarification does not answer that.
Oh, okay.
You don't have it.
You see, at page 406, you talk about the evidence, what she has shared with the DP. By 10th November, these are the messages. Then you say, little did I know until she gave evidence, she was told by Ms. Khan, lie had to be taken to the grave. So I then reminded you that, you don't have to refer to that because that's not on the face of this. You agree now?
No, I don't agree with you.
Is
Because
the-
it
is
doesn't
the-
make clear what Ms.
Mr.
Loh's
Singh,
knowledge is.
Is,
Ms. Loh's knowledge.
is that message referred to here?
No, it's not referred
No,
to here.
okay, thank
but
you.
knowledge is referred to.
Yes, thank you. You see,
I think I've made my point.
no. I'm not even trying to suggest to you that the knowledge includes that message, Mr. Singh.
That's what I'm doing.
No. I have told you earlier on that I don't have anything to disagree with you on the basis that, or on your contention that at the material time contemporaneously, you have not seen that message. I think I made
Yes.
it clear to you several times.
Yes, but we don't know what's on Ms. Lowe's mind.
So for you to suggest that that message is somehow operative in these lines here,
Why shouldn't I
it's
assume that?
far-fetched.
How can it be far-fetched?
I
It's impossible for you to conclude it's far-fetched.
I think
The
Mr.
message was sent to her.
I
You
think
know
Mr.
that.
I think Mr. Singh, you
Look,
with respect-
I know your case theory hasn't worked in this regard, but this is what I've put out there, okay?
no. You see, the reality is this: you were told by senior cadre members, in this case, Ms. Low and Mr. Nathan, people who are close.
There are no such thing as senior cadre members. They're just cadre members.
All right, cadre members, but someone you know and trust well, work with as well, served you as well, that you should come clean. Disclose
that
you should come clean. Be public.
Yes,
Tell the public the true
Right.
timeline.
right.
And the reality is that she's telling you, tell people that you knew of the falsehoods in
Yes.
August.
The falsehoods, or is she referring to the fact that we told her to take a lie to the grave? You can't answer that question, Mr.
No,
Tong. And
So-
let me just in the
let me ask you
go
this.
ahead.
Let me ask you this question: if you were not clear what she said, did you ask her when she was before you?
As my answer would be the same that I gave earlier. I did not find it to be relevant vis-a-vis Ms. Khan's conduct.
But you don't even say it's not relevant in the messages. You said despite that. You remember,
Mr.
Mr.
Tong, are
Singh?
we going to quibble over that? Because I suggest you don't put too much weight on that.
No, I suggest you be careful with how you look at the language, because I think if you
let me-
disregard it, I would suggest do it at your peril, because
Let me tell you, it is not what
Let
you
me
are
finish.
imputing into it.
let me finish. Right? I think sometimes you give it away when you try to interrupt, because
No, I'm not giving anything away. I'm only giving the truth away.
I will be the judge of that.
I'm sure you will.
When you are confronted with a plea by Ms. Low to please tell the public that you knew, tell the public that you were involved, what courses of action you took, make this public knowledge, the true timeline of events. You don't understand this?
I disagree with it, and I'll tell you why. It's
No,
also referred
that's not
to-
my question, Mr.
Yes,
Singh. Did you
okay.
understand this?
Yes, I understand it. Of course,
Yes,
I
thank you,
understand it.
thank you. Now, you don't think it's a reasonable request?
I don't think in the circumstances it is relevant. And let me suggest to you why, because the answer is also on this page.
Please.
Ms. Low paying at the top. We came prepared with quite a few points. We knew a lot of people had this on their mind, which was to expel her. That's what she says. I mean, as you can see, a lot of newspapers also called for that. So we went in to try and prevent them from doing that, I guess. Or not prevent, but to give them our reasons why they should not do that. Basically, the whole idea, at least from Ms. Low Pei-Ying, was they did not want us to expel or recommend the expulsion of Ms. Raisa Khan. So whatever would come out, again, this is where the knowledge of what Ms. Low is referring to is important. Because if she is laboring under the presumption that the leadership told Raisa was told to take a lie to the grave, I can see why it's important for her to say, you should tell the public what you know. But that wasn't the case.
Mr. Singh, first of all, we will have to make an assessment as to whether or not, in fact, Ms. Khan's message about taking the information to the grave is a fair one or not. All right?
But it's
you
sent to Ms. Low.
You leave us to be the
Remember
judge
that.
of that.
Yes.
Okay? Second, the true timeline, as you knew it then, I don't even think Ms. Low is coming to you and saying, you know what, Mr. Singh, you should have been aware of this message and you should disclose that. It's inconceivable for Ms. Low to come to you to ask you to talk about a true timeline of events which does not contain information you are aware of. Okay?
She told, like I said, like I gave in my evidence.
So
Sorry,
let me
go ahead,
finish.
go ahead.
Let me finish. So let's not try to ascribe a motive to Ms. Low. She may be a close ally of Ms. Khan, and she may well think that it is wrong to expel Ms. Khan, and I think she was very forthright in telling you that. But she also gave you some strong words, if I may
Yes.
use it, put it that way, about the process. And it is the process that is important.
Right?
And she's telling you your process is flawed because you
Yes.
have just not come clean. You have not disclosed to the public your
Like
own
a-
involvement.
I hear you. You've made this point a few times.
Yes.
And my reply is still the same. I did not think it was
See-
relevant vis-a-vis what Ms. Khan had done.
When you gave a press conference last Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about the DP and you used the words natural justice.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
It's important, right?
Yes.
That justice be done,
That's right.
justice be seen
That
to be
Ms.
done.
Khan has the opportunity to address those issues. Yes.
So why is it that justice can be done and facts don't have to be disclosed? Relevant facts don't have to be disclosed. How is justice to be done?
Well, Ms. Khan, the person who is under scrutiny, is at liberty to tell the CEC all that. That look, I told these people I cooperated. They are not. It's not fair that they judge me. If we really wanted to
No,
throw
no.
national, let me finish. To
Your
throw natural
members,
justice, let me
Mr.
finish.
Mr.
I let
Singh,
you finish.
your
Please let me
members.
finish.
I'm trying to keep
Can you
your
let me finish?
evidence relevant.
It's highly relevant. It's in response to what you're saying.
You are,
Ms. Khan
Mr.
was,
Chairman,
you say natural justice.
Mr.
So
Singh.
are you
Mr.
going to
Singh.
let me finish?
No, you
Mr.
see-
Chair, can I please finish?
I will let you speak, okay? So I'm trying to explain to you why it's not relevant. You are trying to answer my question with reference to what Ms. Han can say. I don't disagree with that for the moment. I was focused on the members who are not aware and don't have the same level of facts as Ms.
Yes,
Han does.
yes.
Ms. Han obviously knows you knew on 7th of August, but the members, all 26 of them who gave you a submission, didn't know.
Yes.
And so that's the part I'm putting to you.
I know
Focus
that.
on that.
I know.
That's the part on natural
and
justice.
I've
So focus on this.
I've replied to
Now give
you.
your
I
answer.
did not see it to be relevant insofar as what Ms. Khan had done in Parliament. You've asked me this question a number of times. You're not making progress because my answer is still the same.
You see, the reason I ask it again is because I'm trying to give you an opportunity to think about the position and reflect on how this is coming out. And think about it in the context of the fact that you have information about the DP's own involvement in the very matter that they are judging Ms. Khan on. Just take it at that level. And I cannot understand why you hold on, in my view, quite unreasonably to the position that this evidence is completely irrelevant. Your members don't need to know. Your members don't need to know the true timeline, or that you were involved, or that Ms. Han had actually come up to you and told you about the lie 3 months prior to when she was expelled from the party, or you were thinking of expelling her from the party. So I'm trying to understand that. So
Yes,
that's why I asked several times. So
No,
I
I
apologize if it comes across as repetitive.
No, you don't need to
But
apologize.
I am trying to give you an opportunity to explain and understand from your perspective why that is so.
As I mentioned, Ms. Khan had told a lie in Parliament. She had repeated that lie, and the focus of the DP was on that particular conduct. Whether she had shared that feedback with the DP to us, to me at least, I should not include they can give their evidence, to me was not relevant. What was relevant was an MP of the Workers' Party has told a lie in Parliament. What is the appropriate sanction?
All right.
Thank you.
Is that your last answer on
Can I
this?
just build on that? So you did not feel it was relevant to let the CEC know either when they formed the DP?
No, I did not.
So you decided that it was irrelevant and there's
That's
no need for the CEC to know
Let me
that
just
you
say,
knew
Chair,
about it. Is that correct?
let me just say, I did not actively say I'm going to withhold this information. It did not even
So
cross my
my
mind.
question is, you felt that it was irrelevant. There was no need to inform the CEC that you,
did not cross my
Ms. Sylvia Lim, and Mr. Faisal Malap knew.
My answer is it did not cross my
And the
mind.
CEC formed the disciplinary panel
Yes.
without knowing that actually 3 of you knew a few months before
Right.
that this was disclosed to you.
That the lie was disclosed to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
That would be correct.
And you feel that it's irrelevant for the rest of all your members to know this fact because in your view it was irrelevant.
In my view, it was the focus of the DP's work was on
Understand?
the lie.
But you felt that
Ms.
it
Khan
was
had told.
irrelevant for anyone else to know that you actually knew this as early as 7th, 8th
Yes.
August.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. let me now come back to the grave message. Now I
Oh,
am.
good God, yes, back to the grave.
If you're not going there, may I ask, if you feel that it was not relevant, I'm just curious why in the press conference on 2nd December, you disclosed this fact to the public?
Because there were questions online about it.
So
He answered that.
therefore it became relevant because of that? Or
because
what
there
were the
is-
reasons for that?
because, yeah.
you see, our contention is that it is important.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a natural perspective, most people would feel that surely this should be known. But you could feel that it is irrelevant. You saw no need to inform your CEC when they were forming the disciplinary panel.
Yes.
As you sought the feedback of your various members from WP, you didn't see a need to let them know because it's irrelevant. But yet, strangely, on 2nd December, coincidentally, it was the first day that we held the Committee of Privilege hearing,
Yes.
of which actually this fact emerged at the hearing. But you felt it necessary then to respond to the questions. Why was that so?
As I mentioned, there was online chatter about it, and I thought it would be relevant to answer it. And I would expect journalists to ask that question.
So at that stage, you felt it was relevant then to make it public.
Yes, because the illusion was that we were hiding something. And
So
we were not
before
hiding
that,
anything.
you didn't feel there's any need to inform anyone?
Yes, because we weren't hiding anything.
Thank you.
How did that illusion come about?
How did what, sorry?
How, you see, Mr. Singh, I mean, just to pick up from what Mr. Chairman said to you, there's a reason why there's chatter in your words and the press is asking questions,
Yes.
because there's a one big gaping hole.
The press is not asking questions. There were one of our own party members was asking the question
Just because
also.
your story has one big gaping hole.
Uh,
When did you know? What did you do with the information, and why?
Because the whole
Right.
inference is that we are trying to hide something. We were not hiding anything. There was nothing to hide.
So what's wrong with coming up with it early and say we knew?
That's precisely my point. It didn't even cross our minds. The question of it being relevant wasn't even active at that time. I hope I make this clear.
Maybe if I can ask this question, because I was curious as to the press conference on 2nd December.
Yes.
Was that pre-planned?
We informed,
It was activated fairly late.
no,
Because
not
in your
really.
process, would it be correct to say that actually the disciplinary panel would have gone on for longer before you convened the CEC to report to them?
The disciplinary panel finished its work on I'll have to double check, 29th or 30th of November.
Understand. But prior to that, the plan was that it would stretch a little bit beyond
There
where
was
it
an
originally-
original plan for it to go up to the 4th.
That's right.
And then we decided that the gap was too far apart between members.
When was the decision taken?
Sometime in late November.
About late November.
Yeah.
So the fact that you had an activated for a press conference to be held on 2nd December, which happened to be the same day that the Committee of Privilege was sitting, was
Yes.
purely coincidental.
Well, we had informed the public through the Facebook post that we were going to give a press conference. This was I'll
Just
have
a
to
few
check
days
the
prior.
rest. Yeah, we did publicly inform it. So it was not a case of like suddenly we activate the press in the morning that we're having a press
I
conference.
understand.
Yeah.
Because
I
by
think
that
was-
stage, I think there was, we had already fixed, and those who were involved would have known that we were
Right.
sitting on.
Right.
Would the consideration that the fact that the three of you knew of Reza Khan's lies as early as 7th and 8th December, which would have emerged as it did at the Committee of Privilege hearings.
Yes.
Did that weigh on your mind
No,
that
not at all.
perhaps,
No.
therefore, you needed to then have that press
Absolutely
conference?
not.
Not at all?
Absolutely not. Because look, the COP in my mind would continue its work. So it would have come out anyway, and it didn't even occur to me, to be honest.
So am I correct to say that all this while, when you felt that there was no need for anyone to know because it's irrelevant, even as important as your own CEC members, as they form the DP,
Yes.
in the process of gathering feedback, which is why I would suggest Ms. Loh, when she felt strongly, and as you alluded to in the report, as highlighted by her points, that she felt that she wanted to try to make right the situation because maybe, Ms. Reza Khan might be asked to step down because she had felt that the feedback given was given without knowledge that, for example,
Chair,
the
I
three
beg
of
your
you
pardon.
knew.
I don't
Let me
understand
come
your
to that.
question.
No, the point is, through all this stage, you felt that it was irrelevant.
Well,
But by 2nd October, 2nd December, you felt that it was really important to get this message out. And coincidentally, that was the very same morning that these facts emerged here at the Committee of Privilege.
no connection between
No
the two.
connection whatsoever.
No connection between the two. But I would say, vis-à-vis the CEC, because I think the allusion being made is information was kept from them. RISA was before the CEC on the 29th of October. So if at any point there was some remark that she wanted to raise, some concern she wanted to raise about where this is going, I don't think there was any
I understand that.
inhibition for
I
her
understand.
to you know.
But when you put it to the CEC, your own CEC members, you didn't feel it was necessary for them to know that yourself, Ms. Sylvia Lim, and Mr. Faisal Manap actually knew of the fact that Ms. Risa Khan lied as early as 7th and 8th.
Yeah, it did not press on our minds. But if they would have asked, of course we would have had.
Yes,
had
but you
tell
didn't
them.
feel that it was relevant to
That's
let
right,
them know.
that's right.
Just as you didn't feel it was relevant to let the rest of your members know as you gathered their feedback on what they thought.
That's right, because we're fundamentally dealing with Raisa Khan's lies in Parliament.
Thank you.
So to pick up on those points, Mr.
Yes.
Singh, you said earlier that the sitting had planned for members to meet with the DP on the 4th of December,
That's right.
which means that the contemplation was that the panel would not complete its work until after the 4th of December, right?
Repeat your question, please, sorry?
If you're meeting members on the 4th, you can't complete your report until after the 4th, right?
That's right, that's right.
And in fact, Ms. Lim had informed Ms. Khan that the panel has decided that it will need more time and there'll be unlikely to be a November decision.
I don't know, where does she say this?
Please pick up Ms. Khan's bundle, 7 December.
Which page, please?
Please turn to page 9.
Sorry, page 9, did you say?
Page 9, yes.
Yes.
November 8th, 4:43 p.m.
November the 8th.
You see it as 11/8.
Yes.
From Sylvia Lim. Hi, Ray.
Yes.
FYI, the panel has decided to take
Right.
more time, unlikely to be a November decision.
Yes.
Right? This is on the 8th of
I
November.
believe she may have, you'll have to check with Ms. Lim, but I believe this was because we knew we wanted to get members' feedback. That's why
Yes,
we weren't,
which
and
include-
we also had to organize our schedules and stuff.
Right. So at least as of that time, and at least as of around the 18th of November, where you saw a reference earlier to Mr. Nathan's messages. He said the panel was still meeting members on 4th of December, which
Yes.
you just corroborated,
Yes,
right?
Yes. Let me just clarify that, because when we told members to write in, those who wanted to speak to the DP, we gave them 3 blocks of dates. This was very, very early on, I think shortly after the 10th of November. And then we decided that, look, the December one is really far apart. Let's try and, we've already got the gist of what members feel. There are still some members we want to meet, so we decided to move it forward.
On the 29th of November, this COP met for the first time. You didn't know it then, but by now you would know because
I didn't
of
know.
the special report, right? And it was also at this first meeting that the committee resolved to call 3 witnesses, Ms. Khan, Ms. Loh, and Mr. Mike Lim.
I don't know of that.
Yes, I'm telling you, as a matter of public record. By now you would be able to check the public record. On the same day, if you just pick up the same page, on the 29th of November,
What am I looking at, sorry?
the same bundle I showed you earlier.
This is the
Lim's
messages from Ms. Khan to
Ms.
Sylvia.
Khan, yes.
Yes.
You see that Ms. Khan had informed Ms. Lim that the interview would take place on the 2nd of December,
Let me, where are we?
right near the bottom of the page.
Okay. Okay, I don't know of this. I'm seeing it for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Over the page, page 10, Ms. Lim says CEC will meet on Wednesday, 1st December to decide what to do. So there was a CEC meeting planned for the 1st of December, right?
That's right.
And this CEC meeting, as of 29th of November at 6:44 p.m., was still fixed for the 1st of December, based on Ms. Lim's message, and she can't be wrong, right?
I will have to check.
maybe you can think about it and tell me whether that's the case. It was
I
just
know
a
we
few
had
days ago.
I know
Mr.
we had
Singh.
a CEC meeting scheduled. Then we moved it a day forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
So as of the 29th of November, therefore I'm correct, 6:44 p.m., there was a CEC meeting scheduled on the 1st of December,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Right. You look a bit further down the page
Sure.
and you see that at 7:01,
Yes.
do you see that?
Yes.
7:01 p.m., Raisha says, Paying received an email for the COP.
Yes.
So at least by this time, Ms. Lim had been aware that Ms. Loh would come and give evidence.
That's for Miss. I don't know of this.
You don't know of this?
I don't know of this.
You sure?
I'm sure.
Ms. Lim didn't tell you?
No.
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 And you didn't know that the COP was sitting on the 29th of, on the 2nd of December?
I know that the COP was going to sit, but it was not active in my mind as to precisely when it was going to sit.
Right,
Yes.
okay. Go further down the same page at 8:37 p.m.
Yes.
A few hours later, CEC meeting is now tomorrow, Tuesday.
Right.
So it was moved earlier.
Right.
So after at least Ms. Lim, and you said you didn't know,
Right.
after Ms. Lim became aware that Ms. Loh would be called as a witness,
Right.
the CEC meeting was brought forward.
Right. Well, from what is said here, yes.
Yes.
What
What's
is
the reason
alluded
for
to here,
that?
at least.
What's the reason for that?
Actually, there was nothing untoward in my mind to move the date forward. I believe the intention really comes back to what we asked Raisa on the 30th of November, whether she would like the CEC to deliberate on what to do before the COP starts its work or after. This question was put to Raisa, and she said, I would prefer it to be before. So that's all there was to it.
You see, as of the 29th of November,
Right.
which is the date on which these messages are being exchanged, the DP had just met Raisha in the morning, right?
We met her in the morning. Yes, that's right.
Yes.
That's right.
And that was the morning of the 29th, and you had planned for there to be a CEC initially on the 1st of December. But sometime in the evening, you changed and accelerated the CEC,
Yes.
right? Mr. Chairman asked you if that was in reaction to the COP proceedings,
Right.
and your answer was no.
Right.
Is that correct?
Look, as I recall it now, I believe the change was made because Raisa had herself suggested she would prefer the CEC to come to a decision before the COP started its work. That's that's what I recall.
That's correct. But it's also the case that by the evening of the 29th of November, at least Ms. Lim and possibly other senior members of the Workers' Party was aware that Ms. Loh would be giving evidence to the COP.
I didn't know that.
But based on this, Ms. Lim would be aware, right?
It would, yes, from the message she sent to Raisa, yes, because
Yes.
Raisa is the one who told her.
Yes. And it is likely that the evidence that Ms. Loh would give would include what we've just gone through, telling the DP to come clean, disclose public information, disclose timelines. That was contemplated, right?
In what context was what contemplated?
It's a very simple question.
You jumped, so I'm trying to draw,
No.
I'm not trying to see where you're jumping.
By the evening of the 29th of November,
Right.
Ms. Lim and possibly other senior members of the Workers' Party will find out, became aware that Ms. Loh will be giving evidence before the COP, right?
I don't know.
Based on this.
Based on this, yes.
Yes. And
Based on this, only Miss Lim at least.
Ms. Loh will be coming to give evidence, and that evidence will probably include her submissions to the DP, her views on the fact that the DP were not open and honest and transparent, and what she had told you you should be doing so that the members of the Workers' Party had a full picture.
I
right?
wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't know.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm picking up on the point from Mr. Chairman earlier because it's a funny coincidence. Don't you think?
There was no plan to try and outflank the COP because the COP can meet for very long and take its time to go through the evidence.
And sadly, that seems to be the case.
No, it's fine. This is what you have to do. We're paid to do this.
But you see, bear with me, Mr. Singh. You see,
It's nothing more than a coincidence.
well, indulge us. I mean, Mr. Chairman asked some questions. Let me do as well.
I will.
Mr. Chairman approached it from the perspective of why did you not have in your previous press statements, or in fact anywhere else, anything about your knowledge of the falsehoods until the press conference on the 2nd of December? And I think I'll be a bit more direct and blunt than Mr. Chairman. And I'll suggest to you that the reason it appears in the 2nd of December press conference is because by that time, the Workers' Party knew that that fact would come out in the evidence given to the COP, which was then sitting at exactly the same time on the 2nd of December.
I wholly reject that connection.
And so, your press conference was designed to disclose the information first.
No, that's not
ahead of what you expected Ms. Low
Disagree.
and possibly Ms. Khan to come to this COP to say.
Completely disagree.
You disagree.
Completely
So it's a pure, complete coincidence that at 12 p.m. when your press conference was on, this was the first day of sitting at the same time as the COP.
Absolutely.
Right. You sure?
I said absolutely with quite
Gusto.
absolute conviction.
Perhaps if I can, I think in the PAL, I don't know which PAL this is, there's a series of conversations, page 196. This is in Ms. Low's submissions. There was some exchange between Reisa and Ms. Low Paying.
Sorry, what
talking
page
about
are we on?
It's page 196.
I hope you're referring to the same thing. But,
I hope it
yes,
is.
go ahead.
Somewhere midway down, let's look at 30th November submissions.
Yes.
So Risa starts with, nope. Hey guys, can we have a quick call this morning? And Paying says, what about? And Risa said, about the CEC meeting tonight. Paying then said, there's one. I thought next week. Risa said, nope, it's tonight. Paying said, did they change it? Risa says, yeah. Paying, when? Yes, and Risa said, yesterday after the meeting. And then she added, after they found out about the COP date, I suppose. Paying, they say, okay, that's important, Ray. And then she goes on to talk about, Risa talked about they're going to vote to suspend me, demote me, etc., etc. Yeah, we don't need to cover the rest.
No, we do. She says, I want to resign, guys.
Yes. But I think the point here I'm making is this, and which is why I was asking the series of questions earlier, because you were very convicted in your sense that the fact that the three of you knew about Ms. Khan lying
Right.
at 7th, 8th August was really quite irrelevant in the overall scheme of things.
In the
which is
overall scheme
why-
of things, yes.
Which is why you did not feel it necessary to inform your own CEC members or senior members.
Right.
While they're deciding on whether you feel that this fact was irrelevant because you saw that as a truth and the reality, but and you decided that, but you didn't see that it was necessary for the CEC to then decide whether it was relevant because you felt it's irrelevant for them when they were considering who to form on the disciplinary panel. Right?
Yes.
So you did not disclose to them because it didn't occur to you,
That's
you didn't
right.
think it was necessary, you felt
Absolutely.
that the facts were very clear, there's no ambiguity whatsoever, there's no need to raise that.
Right.
Neither did you see any need to inform any of your members, even as you sought their feedback. Now, as Mr. Tong alluded to, the feedback and points that members might raise may be different. Had they knew that Ms. Risa Khan, actually a few days after she made that lie, she actually had confessed. Arguably, as you said, was forced
It's
out of
doubtful.
her, but you felt that it was still irrelevant.
Yes.
And the chatter about what was known, what was not known, out online, about what the leadership did or not do, existed for some time. It was not new.
Yes.
So throughout this whole time span, as you had quite forcefully made a point that these were not relevant points.
Yes.
And even as response to what Ms. Low highlighted, you felt there was no need to address it because, yes, you recognize what she raised, but it was not relevant to the point. But it then so happens, then there was changes in the date of the CEC, and coincidentally, and as you said, no coincidence, it just so happens, it was pure coincidence rather, that you therefore had a press conference on the 2nd of December, the very same morning that we sat.
Yes.
And when we were sitting here, I could remember for the first time I heard that the leadership, the three of you, actually knew this on the 7th.
But you would have
and
known
8th.
at least 36 hours earlier that we were going to hold a press conference.
Say again?
You would have known at least, a good 1.5 days earlier we were going to hold a
Yes,
press conference
yes.
on Thursday.
But
It wasn't something that we sprung.
I know, but the dates that when we were going to hold the COP and who we were going to call on 2nd
I didn't know who you were going to call.
as you said.
Yeah.
So, but on that occasion, you felt it was necessary, almost at the same point, after all this while feeling that it was irrelevant. And as you said just now, that was to respond to online chatter, but the online chatter has been going on for some time.
Yes, and I'm
You
having
had
a press
issued
con-
out
Sorry.
various press statements articulating the issues, but no mention whatsoever of this point.
That's right.
And so, in your view, it is just pure coincidence that on the very same morning, you shared the fact that the three of you knew for the first time, pretty much to everyone else,
It
that
wasn't
the
a
three of you knew that actually on 7th and 8th August, you knew that Risa Khan lied at that stage.
It wasn't
And
a,
that was the first time it was made public.
it wasn't a coincidence that we made that fact public. What we had made known was what we knew. We knew Ms. Khan had resigned, and we wanted to establish the full facts of what had happened.
Understand?
Yes.
But up to that stage, because as you have said earlier, the point that you knew on 7th August and 8th August is really quite irrelevant.
That's right.
So there was actually no need to even highlight that at the
I
press conference.
I disagree.
But you felt, as you said, because it's online chatter, it was important to address that.
That's right.
That's
I
what I said.
expected the reporters to ask those questions.
So it's really pure coincidence that the very same morning where these facts emerged at the Committee of Privilege, that you just so happens that you shared that same information,
Yes,
which for the longest time you felt was actually quite irrelevant.
Yes,
in
that's
the overall
right.
scheme of things.
That is correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
So the only ground on which it became an irrelevant fact became relevant for the purposes of the 2nd of December was online chatter and members' queries.
No, it was because I expected this chatter to have been picked up by journalists as well, and I was quite sure they were going to ask the question, so I came prepared for it.
But if it's not relevant to Workers' Party members in their deliberation of something which is more serious than just interest, why does that become relevant suddenly?
Because it's
2nd of
now,
December?
now it's about, it's, you see, as far as the party is concerned, and you saw reference to the DP report, we are making reference to Article 20 about the conduct of a member, prejudicial to the good conduct of the party. That was something we felt that Ms. Khan had to answer to. And it did not matter that she had shared the information with us earlier, because the fact is we are looking into her lies in Parliament and her decision to continue the lie in October. Those were the material facts we were.
Yes.
That
So,
were on our mind.
like Mr. Chairman said, but the queries that had been going around since the 1st of November when Ms. Khan came clean in Parliament. Same questions. Where did
Yes.
the Workers' Party
Yes,
know?
yes.
How long has it been sitting on it?
Well, it would be definitely
Right.
a question that the members could also ask us. It wasn't as if we said, please don't ask us this question. I mean, there was nothing for us to hide.
You
If the
see,
members had brought it up, we would have had to deal with it.
Yes, but you and I know that disclosure means saying so before you're asked.
I think it again comes back down to relevance and our state of mind about that relevance. I certainly didn't feel it was relevant for the purposes of understanding what had to be done to Ms. Khan.
But by
from a
2nd
party
December, it
perspective.
became relevant because people were asking questions about
Because there was a press conference I was going to hold, and I know that the question would come up. So
It's completely
I answered it.
circuitous, Mr. Singh.
It's not, Mr. If you
You-
if you try to look at my thinking, you
No,
would
listen.
realize it's not circuitous.
I asked you, why is it relevant? You said there's a press conference. Why do you say it in the press conference? Because it is now relevant. It's circuitous.
I mean, for the purposes of forming an argument, theoretically, I can see what you're saying, but I'm sure you understand the substance of where I'm going with a press conference.
Mr. Singh, back to the DP, okay?
Yes.
Now, the mandate you have is to look into the falsehoods,
That's right.
right? Now, can I invite you to please pick up the bundle dated 8th of December from Mr. Nathan?
From sorry, Mr. Sorry,
Mr.
from who?
Yudhishthira Nathan,
Okay.
8th of December.
Yes. Okay.
This is a bundle of chat logs that he has with Miss Low.
Okay.
So there's no Miss Khan on it. All right.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry. We are looking at the chat log with who? Sorry.
between Mr. Nathan and Miss Low, again the redactions are done by Mr. Nathan.
Yes. Go ahead.
Now, I'd like you to look at it. I'm going to ask you a series of questions about the DP, okay, and the conduct of the DP, the work done by the DP.
Yes.
But to give you the full context, and to be fair to you, I'm just going to show you the preceding messages. So you can start with the 2nd of November. I'm afraid this is not paginated, so
Just to confirm, we are looking at part 1, 2, or 3.
I have it only as one part.
I have it as 3 parts.
It's Mr. Nathan to the COP. This one? This is the first page. Yes, that's right. So go to page, this one. 2nd November. Okay.
Thanks.
So this starts from around 2:26 p.m. on the 2nd of November.
Yes.
So YN is Mr. Nathan and paying is Ms. Low. Ray messaged me just now, 2:26, to ask me if I think the party will ask her to step down. This is in the aftermath of the announcement of the DP.
Yes.
Paying says, I don't know. Then there's a message, there's an attachment of a photo, and I don't know what it is. Here it comes. He also being dragged. Paying says, so I don't trust Pritam to put himself above things.
Lol.
Over the page, like when it affects him personally, I'm worried he'll cut the cord. Then there's a series of messages which have been redacted by Mr. Nathan. And then the next day, on the 3rd of November, the next complete message that you see, Paying says, can I just say, I'm glad Pritam is getting some of the mud in this slinging contest. She goes on to say, he knew before us in every instance. He flagged the anecdote, but didn't ask her to take it out. He knew before she told us. He had many opportunities to really take charge and responsibility, but he's only doing it now. Now let me pause for a moment.
Yes.
Earlier on, when I put some of Ms. Low's messages to you, one of your answers was that they were worried and they were not in favor of the party taking action against Ms. Khan to expel her.
Yes. That's also in her own communication.
That was what Ms. Khan was asking them. This is right at the start of the process and before the 10th of this November, when you sent out the all parties message. You remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
10 December or 10 November?
10th November.
10 November.
10 November. So, would you also say that at this point in time, their views are motivated by a sense that you're being unfair to Ms. Khan?
Well, from what I read, this is, of course, the first time I'm seeing this.
Of course.
It has to be read as how it is put across. But again, I'm quite surprised to see he flagged the anecdote but didn't ask her to take it out. I mean, I think they're really spreading, splitting hairs here because it was highlighted to her. I mean, she had the responsibility as an MP to substantiate the anecdote when I pointed it out to her.
You did say that to her.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but I'm just trying to fix a time frame because earlier on, the messages were later in November. And your reason for, well, at least one reason for that you offered was that at that time they were not happy that you were, or they perceived you to be unfair to Ms. Khan and wanted Ms. Khan to step down.
At what
So-
point, sorry, Mr. Tong?
It was your own evidence.
No, at what point are you referring to that in my
It was a
evidence?
period of time later in November.
Yes,
Yes?
yes, I remember
So
that.
would that also apply to these messages which come at the start of November?
Again, it comes as a surprise to me because around these dates, I communicated with Mr. Nathan and Ms. Low to tell them that a DP was going to be formed, and they didn't share these views or this, the extent of their unhappiness, suggesting that I'm glad Pritam is getting some of the mud in this slinging contest. In fact, it was a very, very different communication between them and I at this period.
All right.
At least vis-a-vis what they say to me. I mean, obviously they're saying something else behind my back.
I understand. Now, can you go maybe 2 pages down? Because
Yes.
the thrust of that was the background, but the thrust of the messages here now start on the 8th of November. And the reason why that's relevant, Mr. Singh, is because on the 8th of November, Ms. Khan had an interview with the DP, right? So you look at the bottom of the page, 8 November 12:29. No decision
12:29?
yet.
Yes.
Yes, over the page. At the end, they only said they will make a recommendation to CEC and CEC will vote on it. They didn't tell her what the recommendation is. Mr. Nathan then says, but also they barely asked her about the incident, support group, why she lied.
No, that's not true.
Paying then says, is this him trying to be accountable and impartial or something? Mr. Nathan, based on what she told me on the phone, she had started saying that she doesn't have her team members' support, that she hasn't been contributing to the TC in discussions, and basically calling the question her aptitude as an MP. Faisal asked her if she has the mental willpower to continue going. She said she does and she'll work hard. And over the page, and Sylvia didn't say much. Yeah, I think she met them. And then go further down the page. Cause I asked Ray again, he needs to know from Paying. Mr. Nathan, and she confirmed he knew before the sitting when Shanmugam asked her. He knew before she told us, Yudish. I asked her, who knows? And and we spoke to him about it at TC right after. We are her witnesses, we are. So, was it the case that the questions asked of Ms. Khan at the interview related or had barely anything to do with the relevant incident, the support group, and why she lied?
No, the questions that we put to her concerned, coming from memory here, why she lied, why was it that she uploaded her speech, number one, so late? After uploading the speech so late, it was still pointed out to her that you had to substantiate. What did you read into that? We asked her a series of questions on that episode, where the anecdote came from. Was she still in touch, with this group? Because I think by then she had given us some information about, because we had asked her, give us more information about this support group that you attended and whatever other information you can find. And I think Ms. Lim proceeded to get in touch with some of the organizers of the group.
Right.
So those facts did come up. The point about her, I'm just going to refer exactly to how it's put here, her contributions and all that came really down because of a point about self-discipline. It is in the rules of prudence that self-discipline is important, and that would mean uploading speeches on time, and that would mean making sure that you don't just do things at the last minute. And there have been deadlines that have been given her to her in the past. She does not follow those deadlines. And we thought questions like that were relevant to try and see, really, is this a pattern of conduct that we expect?
Okay. Can I ask you to look at Ms. Khan's own account of
Yes.
that interview?
Yes,
You pick
sure.
up Ms. Khan's bundle, 8th of December. Hope you can find it.
I better put this together. Thanks. Thank you. Yes, what page am I being referred to?
Please turn to page 12.
Yes.
And at 8th of November, 12:39 p.m., Raisha says,
Sorry, Mr. Tong, I missed out your timeline.
8th of November,
Right.
12:39 p.m.
12:39.
Hey, I just met the DP. It was basically Pritam telling me his grievances against me and my character, and how he feels that I don't contribute much, and that people don't have a good perception of me. Paying says, I heard from Yudish, he's very upset for you, and so am I. His language doesn't show that he's taken any responsibility for this. Mike and I are doing what we can, and remember, no matter what he and I are here for you. We are both ready to leave if they ask you to do so. Reisha says, I just don't understand why someone would say so many mean things in one go. Do you think it's best for the party if I resign? Yudish mentioned that Ru said it's the noble thing to do. Is her account a fair account?
I think it is a very, she sees herself as a victim, but I don't think it's an account where she's even prepared to take responsibility for what she has done in Parliament. So I don't think to that extent it is a fair account.
You see, Mr. Singh, I'm
But-
asking about these
sorry, go ahead.
questions because, again, I'm trying to work out, being very candid with you as to how I'm looking at this. I'm trying to work out, based on her account, if she is right, whether this would be consistent,
What would be consistent?
whether the facts that happened, the subsequent conduct would be consistent, right?
Subsequent conduct?
Subsequent
what are you
conduct of the
referring
parties,
to?
So-
I don't get, you have to repeat what you're
Never mind,
getting at.
I'll move on. I'll
Okay.
put it to you this way.
Right.
If Ms. Khan's account is correct, i.e., that she was told in August not to raise it if it doesn't get raised, and I'm paraphrasing,
Okay.
okay? Take the case as it is presented
By who?
by Ms. Khan. I'm telling you this is her
okay,
position,
okay, right.
her case. And on the 3rd of October, you saw her evidence, I showed it to you earlier. Her takeaway was, you told her, continue with the narrative, you won't judge her. She goes and continues with the narrative, i.e. tells the lie. And now, she thinks that you have been too harsh on her and not taking responsibility for your part. This would be consistent if her position was correct, right?
I would disagree if she was of the view that there was some undue harshness towards, meted out towards her. Nothing is stopping her from
Not
meeting the
about-
CEC or anything like that. So
No.
I don't agree.
I'm not going into whether she should tell the CEC, make a complaint, and so on. I'm simply saying that the sentiments expressed here, if she is right, that she was told on the 3rd of October to continue with the narrative, and she did so on the 4th of October, and now an inquiry is being launched into her behavior, her conduct, including what she did on the 4th of October, we can understand why she's aggrieved by it, right? If she's right.
Well, she's not right.
But if she's right,
But I cannot agree with that. She's not right. That's
know.
a conclusion you have to draw.
right?
Yeah.
So you can't agree or disagree.
No, in this particular case, I think it is, again, a very skewed reading of what the DP was trying to do. I think she was very uncomfortable with the fact that she had been called out for lack of discipline.
Is there a DP report of the meeting with Ms. Khan? Both meetings?
I have notes for both meetings. My first set of notes are not very complete, but I have them. I'm prepared to give them. But my second set are much, the second set I mean by the second meeting I have. But I'm quite sure the other members also took notes.
Yes, please. If you can, that would be good.
Yes,
Were these
those
notes,
notes I'm prepared to share with the COP.
were these notes made available to the CEC?
If they had been asked for, they would have been made available. I brought them along when we had the CEC meeting, but because they were handwritten notes, the typewritten copy of the DP's recommendation was flashed on a screen.
Right. Ms. Khan's account of what happened, I know it's what she says and what you say happened at the meeting, so we'll look at the notes that you took.
Sure.
But she takes the view that you were asking her various questions concerning her role as an MP, her work in Compassvale, her performance in Parliament, how many PQs she has filed, how many SQs she has spoken about. And did that happen?
Yes.
Was this part of the conversation?
Yes, of course. It was part of that whole inquiry into self-discipline.
Okay. Was this a major part of the discussion? Because it
was-
appears to have been based on the message that Ms. Khan had sent.
It was a part of the discussion. Major, I would disagree because we had other questions about this diagnosis of PTSD, this document that she had given us, and we had questions about that.
Right. And in addition to that, you also asked her to seek the views of her Sengkang GRC teammates, correct?
Yes, I did.
The three other Sengkang GRC MPs, were they aware that Ms. Khan had told you of the falsehood on the 7th of August?
I do not believe so, but I offhand, my state of mind was to just keep it within Sylvia, myself, and Faisal.
Right. So as far as you know, they don't know,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And the first time they would have come into knowledge of that fact would have been,
I believe. Sorry, go ahead.
well, you tell me, it's either at the CEC meeting, at which I assume they were present on the 29th of October, or they might have found out on the 1st of November when the speech was made in Parliament.
It would have been earlier, but I don't recall exactly at what point they would have known. It could have been earlier,
Could
but
have
I
been
don't know
earlier.
exactly at what point.
Can you give me a rough time frame?
I can't, but if I recall, I'm happy to submit that information to the COP. Offhand, I don't exactly recall this.
All right.
Yes.
So maybe you can check on that. Because it's useful to know whether, whilst Ms. Khan has been approaching them and discussing and canvassing their views as to whether they feel she should carry on, what level of knowledge they have.
Right.
Right. Now, I'm going to put forward a series of propositions to you. You can agree or disagree, but I want it for the record so that
Sure, go ahead.
when we finish, we are very clear what your position is.
Yes.
Now, over the course of today, we have heard evidence from you that was made clear by you to Ms. Khan that she had to come and clarify the lies on the 4th of October if she was asked about her anecdote, the false anecdote, again in Parliament.
Not in those words, but in the words that I communicated to the COP.
And the words that you communicated would be for her to take ownership and responsibility and that you won't judge her.
That is correct. I won't judge her, of course, comes after she starts looking panicky and uncomfortable. It is to encourage her to come out and tell the truth.
This is on the 3rd of October.
3rd of October, that's right.
And that is the thrust of the message that you conveyed to her on
That
the
is
3rd of
correct.
October.
That is correct.
And I think you agreed with me earlier that you did not tell her to tell the truth in Parliament to clarify the lie in those words.
Not at that point.
You also did not tell her, same formulation, to tell the truth to Parliament in those words on the 8th of August.
That is correct. I did not. Yeah.
You did not tell her to tell the truth in Parliament in those words at any time until after the 7th of October. Correct?
That would be correct, but there's a slight qualifier. She spoke about telling the truth on the 4th in my office, and I took that as the indication that that's something, because she has said that herself, and I think that's important. She's taking ownership of the issue, and at that point.
Yeah. First of all,
it
my
was
question
clear.
is focused on what you said, so
Right.
that's not quite.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah, but you're referring to where she said maybe we take a different path,
Right.
or
But
words to
in-
that effect.
Right.
Okay.
But to answer the question that you put, the answer would be yes.
Okay. It's late. The answer would be yes, you did not tell, right?
Could you repeat the question? Let's just make sure it's correct.
Yes, I want to be sure.
Yes.
My question was, you did not tell her to tell the truth in Parliament to clarify her lies in those words at any time until after 7th October,
In
correct?
those words, yes, correct.
If she was to come clean on the 4th of October, which means clarify the lies and, in your words, take ownership and responsibility, tell the truth, and you won't judge her, then you would have asked to see the draft response and the draft statement that she wished to make in Parliament, correct?
Please repeat the question. I'm sorry, Mr. Tong. Please repeat the question.
Sure. If it was clear that you had asked her to come clean in Parliament on the 4th of October, then prior to that, you would have asked to see a draft of her response or her speech prior to her making it in Parliament.
Disagree.
And you would have reviewed that draft and given your comments and input as you did prior to the 1st November sitting.
I disagree because this was not her coming up and admitting what she had done.
And you would also have informed the CEC before Ms. Khan went to Parliament on the 4th of October to make a speech to admit a falsehood that she said in Parliament 2 months prior.
If she had admitted, I disagree. If she had admitted that she was prepared to come up with a statement, then it would have been important for me to inform the CEC first.
Yes, but in this case, the CEC was unaware.
It was unaware because no such moment.
Yes, so the whole CEC, including Mr. Lau Tia Kiang and other members which exclude the members of the DP as well.
That's
correct? Correct. On the 4th of October, and after Ms. Khan lied in Parliament again and failed to come clean, I suggest to you that had there been a clear indication that she was to come clean on the 4th of October, you would have asked to see her immediately and asked her why did she lie again in contravention of the understanding that you had with her. Agree?
Please repeat the question.
Sure.
Thank you.
My question is, on 4th of October, and after Ms. Khan had lied in Parliament again and failed to come clean, I suggest to you that had there been a clear indication that she was to come clean on 4th of October, you would have asked to see her immediately and asked her why did she lie again in contravention of the understanding that you had with her. Do you agree?
If that condition precedent took place, yes.
Which condition precedent?
If there was an instruction that you refer to in that.
Yes, so on your case,
right,
there was an instruction.
No, on my case, it was for her to take ownership and responsibility to tell the truth.
Yes, so if it came up again on 4th of October,
right,
your instruction was to tell the truth.
Yes, yes.
And now I'm on 4th of October when she didn't tell the truth, in contravention of that instruction, because it did come up.
Yes.
I'm suggesting to you that it would have been for you would have asked to see her immediately,
yes,
and asked her why did she lie
I saw her
in contravention of the understanding that you just had with her.
No, that was what the meeting in my LO office was for. You know, Raisa, what happened? And then she said, look.
Perhaps you take a different path.
That's right.
In those circumstances, given what happened on the 3rd, and your case that she was clear in her mind that she would have to tell the truth if it came up, given that she didn't tell the truth on the 4th of October, you would have asked her to immediately correct the record the very next day when Parliament was sitting again on the 5th of October. Do you agree?
No, I disagree.
And even if none of the above was done, meaning on the 4th and again on the 5th, if you failed to do that, at the very least, sometime between the 4th and the 12th of October, you would have taken clear steps and made clear your direction for Ms. Khan to come clean immediately.
I believe I had made that direction clear on the 4th of October when she herself volunteered that honesty was the way forward. I said, good, we'll talk about it.
Yes, that's the sum total of your words then.
Yes.
You did not tell her to tell the truth in Parliament in those words.
It would have been very obvious to her.
But you didn't tell it to her in those words.
Not
correct?
in those words, yes.
Right, thank you. I know you've covered this before, but let me just put to you that you did not see any response from her or any explanation from her. You did not see any steps being taken throughout August and September, all the way until at least October the 7th, which would be suggestive of coming clean in Parliament. to clarify the lie,
I
correct?
disagree. October the 4th was the time where it was clear to me that she would be clarifying.
All right. So before October the 4th, the answer would be yes. There were no steps whatsoever, correct?
Yes, that was the evidence that I've already
Right.
given.
And by the same token,
Barring, of course, what I had informed her on the 3rd of October to do.
yes. And by the same token, you, in the same period, had not checked that her family was aware, and therefore she was in a position to come clean and clarify the lie in Parliament.
That is correct.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh. You've been very patient with me, and thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I've got no further questions.
If I may just build on a few questions that Minister Tong asked, just so to be clear. On the 8th of August, when you met with Ms. Raisa Khan, with Ms. Sylvia Lim and Mr. Faisal Manap, as you have described, you were surprised by her revelations. Obviously, a lot of empathy when she reviewed.
Yeah,
her-
it was generally very
and obviously
pitiful.
traumatic for her. She was
Yes.
crying. And as Mr. Faisal Manap also shared with us, actually, a lot of times, as far as he was concerned and the rest, was trying to console her, trying to come to terms with it, checking whether she's having counseling and so on. And there was really no conversations thereafter regarding her lie per se. Once it was settled, move on to the statement on the MM issues. As you yourself have shared, the main thing that you, at the end of it, conveyed to her was to make sure you're clear that your parents know, because you wanted to know who else knew. And that was pretty much it,
And,
from
of course, to tell her that we've got to settle this issue.
very briefly, but not,
Yes.
it didn't belabor the point.
Yes.
So when she left that session, it would be fair to say it's not necessarily very clear in her mind that she received very clear instructions from the leadership as to how exactly to deal with it. Save for those 2 points, which we
Save
just
for those
briefly
2
mentioned, and that's it.
Yes, but certainly not to lie or to take things to the grave.
As we have described, for us in the committee, we are trying to determine, as it merges, there's a he said, she said version. There are
Sure.
two versions, right? So we have to ascertain which was correct. And I guess it would be difficult to prove it because it's a matter of what, for example, you felt was the truth, what she perceived and what she told us to be the truth. And what we need to ascertain is therefore the whole series of events, contemporaneously, what else was shared, any evidence of any sort that collaborate, and we try to figure out which seems to make more sense, which is where we are.
Sure.
Which is why I think the questions asked. So I hope we don't get offended by it because we're
No,
trying to
I wasn't
determine-
offended at all. I think these are fair
So
questions
one
to see
version
what
of it, which was that she walked away, as she has shared with us, that is to, well, take it to the grave. And pretty much immediately after the meeting, she texted her colleagues, of which a couple of points were made, of which all of them were accurate, save that one assertion. So which is not inconceivable, it's possible. But the question is, why would she have done that? That's something that we need to determine. So there was one interpretation from that meeting. From your sense was that it was absolutely untrue. There was none of that communication to her to take it to the grave. So that's a second version.
Yes.
What transpired after 8th? There was a conversation you had, I think, with Ms. Low, Ms. Nathan, I think 10th
Yes.
August.
I
Touched a little bit about the conversation,
Sure.
but didn't go into a great deal of details.
Yeah, no, not as I
And
recall.
pretty much as you have also shared, in your mind, it was very important to set the record right. The line needs to be made right. Your priority was to make sure that at least a precondition was a state of mind. Her parents were informed, but as you shared, no action pretty much was taken, pretty much until 3rd October. So from the actions that were taken or not taken, very difficult for us to read as to what exactly was the intent. And following from 8th August, save for perhaps because you didn't belabor the point at all, I'm not sure necessarily the directions were very clear to Ms. Khan, what exactly she was supposed to do. She had a certain interpretation, but you didn't follow up with her, with the family, state of mind, and to ascertain what the current state of affairs were until 3rd of October when you met with her. You've taken a lot of pains to emphasize to us very specifically your message to her was to take ownership and responsibility.
Yeah.
And also the line that I won't judge you. And of course, as you put in the context, that she was, what was it that you said? She was unclear or seemed a bit dazed, and
She
so
was
you
a bit,
added that.
she didn't seem to be very.
You were very particular
confident.
that these were the words used, and in your own mind, when you talk about ownership and responsibility, it was very clear that it means that you need to tell the truth. But you didn't in any way state that you needed to tell the truth. You
You've
used the
missed out
term
something,
ownership and
Chair.
responsibility.
You've missed out something. You've missed out the fact that this is an MP who has signed rules of prudence with her.
Understand.
She has knowledge of how I have dealt with this matter from the
Understand.
point the lie was
Understand.
communicated. I
It
think that's quite
doesn't-
important.
I understand. But it doesn't preclude you from telling her quite directly, please tell the truth.
I made certain calls
Yes,
in the
then-
situation I was in.
So you have been quite particular because you keep going back to these few terms, ownership and responsibility, and in your mind, it should be very clear.
Yes.
Clearly, from her own sharing, she had a different interpretation of it. But we don't just take her interpretation of it. In fact, you shared with Ms. Loh and Mr. Nathan on 12 October. In fact, I think Ms. Loh didn't know about this conversation you had with her on the 3rd, and you shared with them. They had the same interpretation.
Based on
you
what
sh-
I, yeah.
You shared with us also that you were very clear with them. You told them about the ownership, what you shared with Ms. Khan on 3rd October about ownership, responsibility. I won't judge you in that context. And you felt that that was clear, but they didn't interpret it that way. The difference on 12 October also is that this actually happened after 4th October,
Right.
when you said that it should have been very clear, and in your mind, Ms. Khan would have come clean on 4th October if she had been asked, and which she didn't, which I'm sure to you, you must have been quite shocked. But at no point did this come across to the two of them. You may have conveyed in some ways, but obviously that wasn't something they took away with them. Would that be correct? So that's an interpretation that they had, which was consistent with what Ms. Khan interpreted from your message on 3rd
Well, I
October.
don't know whether this committee has, I mean, I don't want to be accused of going back to something, but I'm not sure how much the message that was sent by Ms. Khan, insofar as her reading of the meeting of the 8th of August, was internalized by Peng and Mr.
So
Nathan.
that's your contention. that-
It's not just a contention, because if indeed this was what was put to them by Ms. Khan, they had numerous opportunities to challenge me on it.
Understand.
Yes, and so I'm actually very surprised that it did not come up.
So as I said, so that was how they interpreted it. And the whole series of events, and basically as we're trying to determine from 7th, 8th August, 10th August, and then from August to September, where there was a sitting and there was no evidence whatsoever, and as you have also admitted, in terms of needing to make any clarification or seeking for Ms. Khan to make any clarification at the September sittings. As it later turned out, she contracted shingles, and she wasn't able to be there. And on 3rd October, you felt that perhaps on 4th, this might crop up, and therefore you made it quite clear in your mind to her that she needs to come clean. Now, I'm also trying to understand, because as Mr. Tong shared, in the lead up to the 1st of November, when she admitted in Parliament that she lied, a whole series of effort was put in, which is totally understandable. Because as you agree, lying to Parliament is it's a serious matter.
Yes.
And it impacts the individual. It impacts the party politically as well. And it's something that you need to take seriously, how you do it, how you phrase it. I mean, that's sensible. It would be a responsible thing to do as a leader of the opposition with your party to make sure that it is done properly, to make sure at least the facts are stated correctly, you don't misspeak, and so on and so forth. Which explains the accounting to CEC as to what was going to be done, the messages, the exchanges, the preparation of the materials, just going through it to make sure that it was ready. And that would be reasonable, wouldn't it, when you know that a statement is going to be made, that kind of preparation should be made.
Yes, and it's also
Yes.
to make sure that she says
Indeed so.
what has happened.
So if you expect that on 4th October, and you don't know for sure whether it will crop up, but it might, and therefore you need to make sure you come clean. But yet there was no action prior to that indicates, because obviously if she had told the truth on the 4th of October, it would similarly be a very significant statement to be made.
This is where I have a different point of view, as I also shared
Understand?
in my
You said that.
exchange.
So what I'm trying to put across is, as I look at it, it is a significant, and you might disagree, that's different from the one on 1st November. But basically asking your member to admit to Parliament that you actually lied in your account earlier.
Yes.
Perhaps slightly different first, if we could concede that, but important enough that one should really want to at least make sure that the statements are correct, it's done properly, etc. But there was no activities done at that stage, because as you also said, well, you also don't really know whether it'll crop up or not.
And she had
we-
not, on her own volition, come forward to say, I'm ready to say this to Parliament.
So, but you did emphasize that your message of taking ownership and responsibility, and yet adding that I won't judge you, was sufficiently clear.
Yes.
I would put it to you that another interpretation that maybe it wasn't so clear, because she had a different interpretation, and Ms. Low and Mr. Nathan, when they heard the account from you, had fairly similar interpretation. So that's one trend. But in terms of activities, there were no activities that were done to ascertain what she would say, to verify, to the same level, in fact, nowhere close, in fact, nothing was done, save your conversation on 3rd, in anticipation of a possible confession on the 4th. But yet, from 1st November, a whole series of activities had taken place. So
Yes.
that contrast is quite significant.
Can I?
Let
Sorry,
me just
go ahead.
complete, and then you can respond.
Sure.
So I think what we're trying to determine is that there are versions of events as described by Ms. Khan and her two associates, which you feel that a number of the points made were not true and they were lies. But it allows us to look at the development of events through a certain lens.
No, absolutely, sure.
Then there is your version, which you have described to us. And there were a series of events or non-events, as the case may be. And we're trying to determine how valid they may be.
Right.
So this is where I think we are at. Because if, as you said, that it is actually really important to come clean and to make sure that it's clear.
take responsibility
Mr.
and
Tong,
ownership.
to take responsibility and ownership, both individually, and I would suggest, would the party also need to take responsibility and ownership of this issue?
I think the primary individual who had
I
to
agree.
deal with the issue
But
first would have been
would
Ms.
the
Khan.
party also need to take responsibility and ownership on this matter as well?
Which matter?
On the lies that are being made by one of your members?
By virtue of her being a WP MP, yes.
Yes. And you feel that this should be made clear, and you felt that it needed to be made clear at some point.
Yes.
What I'm also trying to understand is and I think that's what Mr. Tong was asking, is which point was this going to be made? Certainly no indication from that short statement made at 8 August, at the end of the conversations on that issue, and all the way until 3rd October, nothing was done. So whatever the intent might be, difficult for us to determine.
It would be much harder to determine if I didn't say anything on the 3rd of August.
So on 3rd of October,
3rd
it
of
made certain-
October, sorry.
3rd of October, it made certain statements that alluded to expecting possibly making a confession then, but similarly, no other activities to verify the statement and so on and so forth. But we accept that as you have described. But that's the paucity of activities leading up to that stage. And then thereafter, from 4th October, and I think tellingly, you were also sharing with us that when you met her in your room, she said that, what was it, this wasn't working?
No, she said perhaps there's
There's
another
another way.
path. There's another
There's
way.
another
and that's
path. There's
honesty.
another way. We need to tell the truth. At face value, it would seem that, well, clearly the path that we're taking doesn't work. We need to tell the truth. That would be the other path. That's one interpretation of it. And if you take the line that she has shared as how she had interpreted the various events, then it would seem that the line to maintain the narrative isn't working and we need to tell the truth. That would be fair if you accept that that was how she interpreted that view. You have a different version of it, which I accept. So, but from that point on, and then especially on 12 October onwards, it's very clear the preparations leading up to 1st November and so on was there. And I suppose that's really where, I guess, the last series of questions that Minister Tong was asking is really to determine what exactly was the position, because it would help us try to understand the context of which clearly there are two lines of possible truths here. One is shared by Ms. Khan, and then to some degree supported by her two associates in some form. Contemporaneously, some of it being shared. One could argue, why would she be sharing some of this misinformation, untruth at the very stage, at that stage? Some of which, through their interaction with yourself as well, walking away with certain interpretation that seems to be consistent, and which, as you shared, was it shaped by that original narrative by her? And that's something that you have raised. The other narrative, of course, is as you have shared. And we need to determine, therefore, which seems to make sense, because what we're trying to determine here, there's no doubt in anyone's minds, because it's been admitted that a lie has been made in Parliament by Ms. Khan, and repeated on several occasions. And so really what we're trying to determine is, why was it done?
And she's also lied to her own SG after the event.
And the degree of responsibility that she should bear, and so on. If she had shared with anyone else, was she acting on advice of others? Or not, as the case may be. And I guess that's really what's before us to determine. Any other questions from other members? Dennis, anything to ask? Dennis?
Mr. Singh, I just have a few questions. Do bear with me. I know it's been a long day.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Just to clarify certain facts that some of which may have been touched on earlier. I go to the 12th of October meeting between yourself and Ms. Sylvia Lim and Ms. Raisha Han. Are you able to tell the committee who initiated the meeting?
This meeting was initiated by me. Raisa wanted to meet earlier to discuss the advice that she had received. But insofar as dealing with the untruth that she had communicated in Parliament again, the lie in Parliament, I initiated this meeting to discuss that subject.
What advice were you talking about?
Sorry?
What advice? Was it the legal advice you were
Yeah,
referring
yes,
to?
the legal advice, that's right. But that was not, this meeting was, I called this meeting to discuss the fact that she had not come back to us with anything on the way forward insofar as what explanation she was going to give to Parliament.
So at the start of the meeting, did it look to you like she was ready to now admit that she had lied in Parliament and prepared to go back to Parliament to make this admission in Parliament?
No, I think I gave evidence to this effect earlier. She did not, she turned around. She did not actually want to make this personal explanation. She said she was not comfortable with it. And I remember Sylvia getting very upset with her. And I said, look, this is something that has to be done. There's just no two ways about that. That was the meeting of the 12th.
So at this point in the meeting, did you know whether she has told her parents about her sexual assault experience?
No, I didn't know.
Did you or Ms. Lim ask her again to speak to her parents?
At this particular meeting, I'm not sure, but because it was very clear that she had to, told her that she had to make this statement in Parliament, she would have had to speak to her parents to get that done. Yes,
Thank you.
but I can't be precisely sure whether that was communicated to her in those terms. But it would have been, since we had told her that she had to make that personal explanation.
Are you aware of what Ms. Han's lawyers had advised her?
Yes, I'm aware.
Is there anything you want to share about that?
I think that may be privileged, so I want to be a bit careful, but suffice to say that that information was consistent with her addressing the issue in Parliament.
Thank you. Was it on the 12th October evening that you also met up with Ms. Loh Pei Ying and Mr. Yudhishthra Naden?
Yes, they asked to see me.
Just to be absolutely clear here, at this meeting, did they ask you about their allegation, or rather Ms. Han's allegation, that you had told them in August that you, Mr. Faisal Manap, and Ms. Sylvia Lim had told Ms. Han that they should bring the statement of the sexual assault anecdote to the grave?
No, that did not happen at all.
So they never asked you?
They never raised it to me. They never raised it to me at any point in time. I think I've given this evidence.
So they never asked you at the disciplinary panel meetings?
No, at no time did they bring this up.
Talking about the disciplinary panel meeting, when the DP was being set up, did you at any time communicate directly with Mr. Naden or Ms. Loh Pei Ying about the setting up of the panel?
I believe I informed them after the decision had been made.
What means was this by?
WhatsApp. And I've committed to share those details.
And how would you describe each of them? How did each of them respond to your message to them about the setting up of the panel?
Yudish thought it was, I don't think he used the word good, but it will be in the messages that I submit to the committee. But he said it will quell some party members' views about what had happened, and so it was a positive thing in his eyes, and I would say similar for Pei Ying.
Going back to the 8 August meeting at your home, I think you shared earlier with the committee that you said something along the lines of, look, we'll have to speak on this, but you have to speak to your parents first.
You'll have to speak to your parents, yeah.
Right? So we'll have to speak about this or on this, but you will have to speak to your parents first. Did you remember when did you say this, at which point in the meeting?
To speak to your parents?
Yeah, about both part of it, yeah.
I'm quite sure I speak to the parents was when we were when we were sitting around the table. Okay. And I remember because when she left, I walked her to the door and I said, we'll have to settle this. Okay. We'll have to resolve this issue.
Is there anything else you wish to add?
No, but Mr. Chair, I have a request. I've seen some documentation and WhatsApp messages, which I think this comes from Pei Ying and Yudish. My home address is not redacted, and I think it happens in a few places. So I would appreciate if the COP preserved my privacy in that regard.
Yep, we'll do that. Yes, I remember noticing it, and we'll redact it.
Yes.
There are a couple other things that probably needs redaction as well.
Right.
We'll do that. Not to worry.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Mr. Chair, I don't have any more
Thank
further
you.
questions.
Any other questions, Ms. Raju? Okay. Well, if there are no other further questions for now, thank you very much. I know it's been a very long session.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Appreciate
I'm
your
happy to have been
patience
given. I'm
and
happy to give my
for
evidence.
coming before us and sharing with us your perspectives. A transcript of the proceedings will be shared with you for verification. Do go through it. And if you have any other minor amendments, please make the changes and send the transcripts back to us. Do note that the transcripts and any evidence given to the committee are not to be disclosed to anyone or published and must be kept strictly confidential until the committee has presented the relevant report to Parliament. This would include, I guess, discussing with your other teammates who might still be coming forward to
I will be mindful of that.
the committee for interview. You may withdraw now. We well, obviously won't be calling you back today. We might need to call you back on other days should there be a need to follow up. But otherwise, once again, thank you very much.
You're welcome,
Staff will accompany you up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you very
Singh.
much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Sergeant at Arms, please accompany the witness up. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.